Hey guys, hope everybody's having a fantastic day, whether you're catching this in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. Today I want to take a few minutes and talk about a very cool knife that I picked up at the Nashville Custom Blade Show. It was one that I was hunting when I went there, and it is the newly refined and updated Protech Mordax button lock. The Protech Mordax button lock is not a new knife altogether. It was and is a Ferrum Forge collab, and it was a drop collab back in the day when they released this. And then Protech brought it back, and they have put some revisions to it that I find interesting, and I'm curious if other people find the same things that I do. But for one, they've scalloped the handle. This aluminum handle scalloped. It's got fantastic action, which the Mordaxes that I've handled before also had good action. This one does seem snappier than what I remember in the past. And then again, you've got that sculpted aluminum handle. And one thing that I'm noticing is the actual blade thickness seems to be much thinner blade stock. It is a flat grind, but it comes down to a very, very keen edge. I don't have calipers or anything to measure it with, but I'll share the specs down below. And when I was talking to Dave, he did say that it had been revised through some of the shows based on client feedback, customer feedback, and I think that's always good to hear. Whether that's true or not, I think the knife is fantastic. So when I had a chance to get this knife, I didn't get it right away. I was looking at some other things at Blade Show or at Nashville Custom Knife Show, and there are a couple other things that I'm going to get later this week from relationships that I solidified when I was there. But right before we left, I happened to walk back by the Protech booth. They had one of these left, and I could not leave without it. It's in MagnaCut. The Malibu, as you guys probably know, is one of my favorite knives. This knife kind of fills that void to be a little bit bigger. It also gives me a choil that gives me as much control of that blade in a very stable grip as I could ever possibly want. The button lock, even though I'm horizontal, has absolutely smooth, fluid action, does not have any grit, any stick. Protech does something with their button locks that others, I'm hitting my jacket as I do this, but it is just fluid. So since we are looking at the Protech Mordax, let's get a couple of size comparisons to see how it falls into some knives that we might be familiar with, like the Cold Steel 4MAX. It's going to be smaller than the 4MAX and the Civivi Baby Banter. It's going to be larger than the Baby Banter. Let's take a look at it next to the Bitch-Made Bug Out. Good bit bigger than the Bug Out. And the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. So guys, it's right about the same size as the PM2 in length. The handle's very comfortable. Not all that different from the PM2, but it is an ergonomical knife that I find, at least in my hand, to be very, very comfortable. I would imagine in a lot of hands it's going to be very comfortable. The only thing I would say is if your fingers are real sausagey, the choil might be a little limiting. It's not for me. I can access this knife and get cuts in any style that I want, whether it's a push cut, a pull cut, whether I want to do detail cuts. The Mordax is just that cool of a knife, and I've only been carrying it for 2 days now since I got it, but it hadn't left my pocket, and I anticipate using it and carrying it where I can give you some more insight into how it actually performs, how the MagnaCut performs. But one thing I wanted to show you guys that I found interesting is the sizing I knew was going to be larger than my Malibu. This is the textured Malibu, so yeah, it is larger than the Malibu. But when you go and you look at the thickness of the knife, and you look at the thickness of the blade stock, you can't tell me that blade stock is not thinner. I know it's crowned, but it's also thinner stock. I don't have my calipers, but I think the handle, even though it's taller, is thinner stock. So I love my Malibu. I'm not taking anything away from it. What I didn't like about the original Mordax as much was, for one, the detent or the action didn't seem as poppy, and I remember the grind being a little bit less than slicey. Guys, this knife is slicey. This grind is all you would want. I can't imagine how you could get much more out of this outside of scratching the edge to get a hollow grind on that. Now again, I'm not a blade guy by any stretch. I'm just talking to you about what my limited knowledge tells me about how I've seen this knife perform through paper. If I had some, I'd cut through it now, but we'll do some more cut tests and talk about it as we do a full review of this knife. But that is the Protech Mordax. It was my Nashville Custom Knife Show find. I found some other really quality makers, had some great conversations with some very quality human beings like Doug Ritter and John Gray. I was able to meet Andrew Demko. The great thing about those smaller shows is you've got people's attention. They're very open. They're all nice guys. Israel Bacchus, fantastic human being. Brian Brown, super nice. Had some Jaegers there just to talk to these guys about what was in their mind when they were coming up with some of these knives that we covet. It's pretty cool. So I urge you, don't just look at the larger blade shows as your only opportunity. If there's a small custom knife show in your part of the world 4 or 5 hours away, it might be worth exploring. Look at the vendor list, see who's going to be exhibiting. You never know who you might bump into, and have some good chance encounters. I met Soulbound Leather, a wonderful couple who makes fantastic sheaths and wallets. I'm following them now on Instagram, and I'm going to get one of the wallets just to check it out. I should have gotten one when I was there. So I just say, take a look at some of these custom shows that come to your area. It's always worth looking at knives and looking at people and hanging out with people that have similar taste. You know, we all are there for the same thing, for the knives. And then if we bump into a buddy or you make a buddy, that's just a bonus. So speaking of buddies, please look out for the guy or gal to your left. Please look out for the guy or gal to your right. Look out for each other. Continue to be kind to each other. Thanks to everyone who's not only watched this video, but anyone who participated in Knives Live 2022. We did better than we did last year. I felt like the community was engaged. We had more viewership. I think Doug's message was really tuned into. I think awareness was spread, and I think we're on the right track. And I just want to thank all of y'all for spending your time in those lives. Guys, I love all of you. Have a great week. Peace.